So we've just seen that as opposed to the case of horizontal mergers, vertical mergers can be like unambiguously good for everybody. Okay, and that's if the case where you have this crazy distortion where there's a monopolist selling to a monopolist, then it makes sense for them to merge. You still end up with a monopoly solution, deadweight loss and all that, but it's not as bad as you solve the double marginalization problem. But before moving on to some other examples of vertical integration, I want to point out that there is a way that you can solve the double marginalization problem without resorting to mergers. So it involves price discrimination, in particular a two-part tariff. Okay, so suppose we have a retailer facing this demand curve, and they're a monopolist. Okay? There is also a manufacturer with constant marginal cost, C. As discussed in the last video, the challenge is that this retailer, since they're a monopolist, is going to set their marginal cost, which is the wholesale price that they are charged by the manufacturer, equal to their marginal revenue, and then they're going to use that to find the price. So that means that the marginal revenue curve is the demand curve from the perspective of the manufacturer. And that means that if they are a monopolist, they're going to basically take their own marginal revenue with respect to this marginal revenue, and they're going to have a slope twice as steep, looks something like this as we discussed. They're going to set their cost equal to this. This is going to be the wholesale price. And then these guys are going to set that wholesale price equal to marginal revenue to figure out the retail price. Can we do better? Yes. So instead of using a per unit, so that's the per unit case, we can do a two-part tariff. Remember, a two-part tariff, if you recall from the unit on price discrimination, is you charge a fixed fee F plus some kind of per unit charge, PWQ. And when you're facing consumers, the maximum, the way you solve this is you set your price equal to marginal cost, and then you set F large enough to take all their consumer surplus. It's a little different for when you're selling to a firm, because for the firm, it's not consumer surplus that really matters. But it's the same basic idea. You set price equal to marginal cost, you figure out how much the purchaser benefits, and then you use your fixed price F to sort of seize those benefits. So here we have our this is supposed to be the same problem. And we know that this guy, this is the retailer, the maximum profit that they can possibly get if they had vertically integrated would be they would just have this cost C, and they would behave like a monopolist, and they would set C equal to marginal cost, C equal to marginal revenue, and then there would be this monopoly value here that would also be the retail price, and in doing so they would earn this profit in this area here. Okay, so I'm leaving this empty for a reason you'll see in a minute. Let's just put a little p in there for profit, or a pi. Okay, so the idea with a two-part tariff is that we're going to set our wholesale price equal to marginal cost. Okay, that's going to induce this guy to set his retail price using the standard monopoly. It's as if he's a vertically integrated firm, but then we're going to set F equal to his profits. Okay, so this box here, all of the profit that this downstream retailer gets instead flows to the monopolist manufacturer. But you see that in doing this, we obtain the same outcome as we would if these two firms vertically integrated. We have the retail price as given by where marginal cost to manufacture equals marginal revenue from consumer demand. Okay, so that's the main takeaway. You can either vertically integrate, or you can use one of these two-part tariffs, and they'll both get you the same. They'll both solve this double marginalization problem. And I mean, one of the intuitions is that, remember, the two-part tariff, when it was applied to consumers, solved the deadweight loss problem, the inefficiency of monopoly, because there was no more deadweight loss. It's just that all consumer surplus was zero and all the profit went to the firm. It's kind of the same idea here. We eliminate the inefficiency of monopoly by going with a two-part tariff instead, except in this case, there's still one monopoly left that has these inefficiencies. The retailer is. Okay, if the retailer could also set a two-part tariff, then we'd be really good. So that's it. And now we're going to go into a couple other cases of vertical integration.